Nigel Farage said he would be willing to lead a merged Reform Conservative party. Earlier this morning, he said that he could not lead the Tories as it currently is, but predicted a new party is likely to emerge after the next general election. Well, joining me now to discuss this is the GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley, who's still here from the previous debate, and also the political commentator Alex Armstrong. Alex, let's kick off with you. Is there going to be a deal? In, out, shake it all about. Nigel Farage this morning flashed his garter. Do you think this is the right thing to do?
Well, look, I think if the Reform Party and Nigel and Richard and all of the, the top dogs in Reform want to ever have a taste of power, this deal has to happen. I think under our current first-past-the-post system, it's highly unlikely Reform will ever form the opposition. Not impossible, but highly unlikely. So I sense that they certainly will want this deal to go ahead, and I think it would be a very good thing because the Tory party has completely lost its way. I mean, you can basically call them the Liberal Democrats at this point. I think amongst voters it would be rather popular because what they're crying out for, this 20% of Tories that have now gone to Reform, they're crying out for conservative values. And the Tory party have lost the majority of their conservative values. It's an oxymoron, the name itself.
Olivia, though, the fact of the matter is that Nigel Farage undeniably has influenced the voters in that base like him. But realistically, they may return 2, 3 MPs. Nigel Farage might be 8th time lucky. Is he really in a position to say that he'll be the future leader, or actually the Conservative Party's been around for centuries? Are they the ones that will call the shots?
Well, I think there is a bit of an element here of a tail-wagging dog. As you say, you could have, yes, the Conservative Party doesn't look like it's going to win a huge amount of seats, but it looks likely to win quite a few multiples of the number of seats that Reform are going to win. I think the other problem with this idea is it would cause splits both on the Tory benches, obviously, and on the Reform benches too. I mean, the Conservatives, as we've seen time and again over this Parliament, are basically split in half between the Brexiteers, the right wing of the party, who do like Nigel Farage and would like to see his influence. Some people like Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary. But then, of course, you've still got this huge collection of One Nation Tories, many of whom are in very safe seats and could well end up keeping their seats. That would cause massive division on the Tory benches. And with Reform too, you've got people who like the idea of making deals with Conservatives, who are friendly with right-wing Conservative MPs, and those who are sort of the hard Brexiteers who say, absolutely not, we can't trust these people. So I think it would reap quite a lot of division.
Well, I don't disagree with you there, Olivia, but I will say this. If Nigel Farage wins his seat, which he looks likely to do from the polls, he would be the most senior influential Conservative on those benches by a long shot. He will be the de facto right-wing Conservative leader, whether we like it or not. He's going to be the man that people look to for the future of conservatism. So it will be up to those One Nation Tories whether they want to come along for the ride or whether they do a Change UK and decide to go on their sort of centre-right own party. But, I really can't see that happening because I think you're going to have big hitters like Suella Braverman possibly retaining her seat. She looks likely that she will. That will also be, highly advocating for Nigel to be part of the party.
Alex, we saw last week a huge swing towards the right of politics across the European bloc, particularly in France and in Italy, a rejection of net zero, a rejection of immigration policies, and yet it looks most likely, bar a miracle, we're about to elect Sir Keir Starmer, who disagrees with all of that. Is that a barrier to this kind of movement, or actually is that a vacuum and an opportunity?
Oh, it's a complete opportunity. I mean, we've seen the Greens in Europe go, I don't know how many seats they went down by, but it was relatively substantial. It's substantial enough for people to say, OK, we might need to have a look at these green policies and our net zero policies going forward. But I will say that as Labour won't have a lot of money to play with, I think they're going to play with a lot of social policies in the next Parliament when they're leading. They're also going to have a massive majority, which means the biggest enemy is going to be themselves. That is the time for the right to unite and get behind someone like Nigel Farage, a strong leader who can take the fight to Keir Starmer quite eloquently in the Commons, in my opinion.
And yet, Olivia Utley, there will be a rump of Conservatives, and let's see what's left after this incoming forest fire, if we're to believe, what green shoots will come. What if the rump of those who are left, literally the remainers of the Tory party are those Remainers that can't stand the sight of Nigel Farage. Will they really want to do a deal with him?
Well, I think that is the sort of great unknown. Which Conservative MPs will be left after the forest fire, as you call it? I mean, you could end up with the kind of hard Brexiteers sort of leading the Conservative Party, and then perhaps there could be a deal with someone like Nigel Farage. But if there's any sort of big proportion of that party is made up of one nationers, then the idea that Nigel Farage is the man to unite the right does seem a little bit fanciful from where I'm sitting.
Well, he did say that he'd spice up this election campaign, and certainly, whatever you think, that seems to have happened. Alex Armstrong, Olivia Utley, superb debate. Thank you very much.